We've now got our set and save test put together. The next function that we'll be looking at is a model instances update function. So we want to update a very specific property on a model instance. So let's see how that would work. I'm inside of my update test file where we've already got our first test for the set and save. And so beneath this test, I'm going to add in another it block for testing a model instance can update. Okay, so we'll add some code in here to update the name of a single user. So again, because we are working on a model instance here, we are working with like a reference to Joe specifically. So this would be another example where we take an instance of a model as opposed to the user class. So like the capital U user. Updating or using the update method on a user instance, totally not unlike a lot of the other kind of patterns we've seen before. So we'll look at Joe and we want to update a single property on here. In particular, I'm going to say that I want to update his name to be Alex. So with update, we pass in an object that lists the new properties that we want to apply to it. So just take Joe, toss a new name on, that's pretty much it. That's all we're doing here. As we are very much tired of me hearing, I'm sure, this is another operation that's going to touch our database. Of course, it means we have to add in our done callback and then go through the entire same process of pulling out a list of all of our different users and then making some assertions about them. Now, when we were going through our delete tests, I kept on console, so I'm going to flip over the delete file real quick. This is our delete file. I kept on copy pasting, these two then statements into every single test. And so each of our tests definitely had a lot of repeat or duplicate logic inside of here. And looking at update, well, we're definitely going down the same path here as well, where we've got this like, dot then, the second dot then, and then some assertions inside of here. Rather than doing a whole bunch of copy pasting all over the place, I'm going to suggest that maybe we make a helper function that will make this assertion for us. And all we should have to do is call this assertion function that we'll write in just a second with our query or our update. And then the assertion function should basically just kind of like take it from there. Okay, so let's see what this might look like. I'm going to scroll up a little bit, and above the first it block, so right between the before each and the it block, I'm going to define a new function, which I'm going to call assert name. So I'm going to assume that this is going to be called with the result of a save or update or something operation. So basically it will be called with an operation that results in a record being updated inside of our user's collection. I'm going to call this thing, for lack of a better term, operation. We're just going to call it operation. So then we'll take that operation object. So in this case, I would be doing something like calling assert name with joe.save, like this right here. The operation will be a promise, so we can chain onto it these dot thens and the assertions, and that'll pretty much wait for the operation to finish saving or whatever operation it's doing. It'll find a list of all the users and then make some assertions. So in practice, like taking all these words and condensing them down to actually something actionable, basically what we want to do is take both these dot thens, I'm going to cut them, I'm going to paste them after the operation, and then I'm going to update my it block to call assert name, and I'll pass in joe.save. So the code that I have inside this it statement and assert name completely, well, I should say nearly identical to what we just had. Call joe.save, this will return a promise, we hand that promise off to assert name, and then we'll take the promise, which we are receiving as something called operation, and chain on our two dot thens. Now there's just one last thing we have to keep in mind here. We have to make sure that we pass through our done callback function. So the second dot then we'll call done. We need to make sure that we take this callback function and we pass it into assert name so that when we try to call done, it basically, make sure it's in the same scope and knows what we're talking about. So I'm going to pass the done as a second argument to assert name, like so. And then inside of assert name, we will receive it as a second argument, done, like so. All right, let's check out our test output and see if this is working. Okay, well, I still have 9 tests passing. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change the name expected right here to, how about just Bob, just to make sure that the test is still working as we expect. So I'll save this. And okay, fantastic. Definitely getting an error there, exactly what I want to have happen. So I'm going to flip this back to Alex, and looks good, much better. Okay, so now for all the rest of the tests that we write inside this file, rather than chaining on a bunch of .thens and all that repetitive stuff, we can just call assert name, pass in the promise that comes from the update operation, and then pass in done as the second argument. Now looking back at the update with using a model instance that we just added a little bit ago, we still don't have any type of assertion in here, so we can again make use of assert name, pass in this update operation, and done, which we will receive here in just a second. Not going to forget. Let's start with that just to be 100% clear. So here's our done callback, and we can call assert name. We'll pass in the update operation as the first argument, and then the second argument can be done. Let's do that. We'll run it. Hey, 9 tests passing, fantastic. All right, so this is definitely looking good. We've now seen 2 of the different ways in which we can update a model instance. Okay, so this is when we have a very particular record already loaded up. So like we've already reached into our database, we've pulled out Joe, and now we want to make some update and save him. Whereas using the set and save methodology was really nice for when we wanted to make some incremental updates, this bulk update functionality where we can just pass in an object and, one go, just do the whole thing, just save it immediately, is really nice whenever we know that, okay, like we want to just update a couple records and save it instantly. So behind the scenes, functionally, set and save, set and save and update, essentially identical. The big difference is the different situations in which you would make use of them. Set is when you want to do some piecemeal updates over time. Update is when you want to just do one go, save it all, call it done, we're all set. Okay, so that's our 2 model instances. We're now going to start moving into our class-based updates. So class-based update, find one and update, and find by ID and update. So again, these are where things are going to get a little bit more interesting. Let's continue in the next section and see exactly why they're going to be a little bit of fun.